Hmm, bro code. What is it? Does it matter? Is it a real thing? Not really. I don't know. It's really failed me a lot in my life. Today I'm gonna be talking about every time the bro code has been shattered for me, or at least a couple of them, as many as I can fit in 15 minutes for entertainment purposes. I'm not hung up on this anymore. You know, we live, we laugh, we love, forgive, forget, something like that. So, I'm thinking the first. So when I was in eighth grade, this is the first time bro code came up. I moved to the place where I live now. Nice try. And I was on. Uh, it was through my church. I met some really close friends who I'm still really close with. Um, we'll call the guy this story concerns. We'll call him Michael. So Michael, I might have to write down his name. I forget. Um, Michael is important to the story. Keep Michael in mind. It's my buddy I made at church, and I consider him like a brother. And when I'm in eighth grade, I moved in like seventh grade, and in eighth grade, there was this like group of girls at school who kind of like just merged me into their friend group. I was pretty awkward and nervous. So they kind of, I don't, they were like kind of making fun of me, but also not really. And I just kind of started, standing closer to them during the day, the way an awkward teenager would. And long story short, kept getting closer into that group until we were all like best friends. And I was like the gay best friend, I guess. They all thought I was gay, except I started dating one girl who we're gonna call Sophia. This is not Veronica. This is pre-Veronica. If you saw the last video, so Sophia and we start dating, and it's like middle school, so it's like quote unquote dating. We like hold hands and watch Netflix together, and that's about it. Um, so things are going. We're dating over the summer before freshman year starts, and then she's off at camps, I'm off at camps. We don't really see each other too much. And, my little eighth grade self starts maturing, and I'm thinking about like long term, is this a person I can see myself being with? And I end up coming home and breaking up with her. And she didn't like that. So that was pretty rough for her. And okay, that sounds mean, but I don't have a script, so I'm trying to, improvise. This did all happen. I just don't know how to put it to words. So yeah, we break up, and then it doesn't really come up again for another 2 years. 2 years down the road is when Michael and my other buddy were all working at the local pool as lifeguards. I'll probably have a lot of lifeguarding stories. That's some good content to cover on here. And we're driving home, or his mom is driving us home because we're all still like little children. We can't drive, and he asks her like, "Hey, tomorrow can I work during this shift? Someone wants me to cover their shift," and she's like, "I guess I don't know." However a mom puts it when she doesn't really want to drive you back to work or there and back for work. But I check the schedule later. There are no outgoing sub requests for the aforementioned shift. And I'm like, that's weird. And I text Michael. So it's me, Michael, and this other guy we'll call Mike, I guess. Mike is his brother. We're like, that's the three buddies I have. Not three buddies, two buddies I have. It's three of us is me, Michael, and Mike. And so I text Mike and I'm like, what's up with that? And he's like, I don't know. So I text Michael. This is so confusing. And Michael, the guy who wanted to take the shift, he's like, oh yeah. So that girl that you dated in middle school, I'm actually going out with her. We're still going to the pool, but I'm not working. I'm gonna be on a date with her. And then he was like, also, I lied to my mom, so I want you to come with me because I feel really bad about it, but I'd feel less bad and scared about it if you were with me. And I'm like, what? Because this guy, he's made like weird comments before about this girl I was going out with. And I'm like, what? Just, like things you don't really say about your homeboy, like when he's in a relationship. Like, if I'm supposing you, the viewer, are a dude or a girl, whoever you're into, just imagine I come up to you and I'm like, oh, they are so hot. And I'm like, what? That's not, that's weird. So Michael, he, as one does, he's texting her about this meetup they're gonna have, and he's texting me and he's like, so are you gonna come? And I'm like, I'm not comfortable watching you hit on my ex at the place where we both work. And nothing ends up coming of it, but he's texting her a lot, and he's like, you have the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen. I think you're the one. I know that's corny. It's just like, holy crap, bro. So she ends up, to make a long story short, nothing comes of that, and she's like, this guy's weird. And I tell her, I'm like, yeah, that guy's weird, which is kind of against bro code. This is where I break bro code a bit, but a lot less than, asking your buddy, hey, help me lie to my mom so we can go to the local pool and hit on your ex. So this guy actually comes in again. I've still got quite a bit of time. Was this a few years down the road? I don't remember where this fits in the time. This might have actually just been a few months down the road. Um, this was after I broke up with Sophia, but before he tried to go out with Sophia. So there's this blonde girl. We'll call her the blonde girl, I guess, because I'm running out of names, and that's the way I think of her, because she's very blonde. Not like her personality, but like her hair is very blonde. Well, I guess maybe her personality, but I don't want to get into blonde stereotypes. So anyway, she goes to our church with us. We have the youth group on Wednesdays, where all the you know that's where I met my buddies Mike and Michael. And yeah, so there's this blonde girl, and she is she's pretty. So as teenage boys do, we're like, fellas, she's pretty. We tell each other, we're like, yep. But Michael, he's like, no, she's not. She's fat and ugly. I'm like, wow, okay. And he's like, yeah, I would never date her. And I'm like, I guess, bro. So later down the road, this might have been like a few weeks later. Anyway, I'm super down bad for the blonde girl. And she texts me after youth group. I get home and I see this Snapchat from her, and she's like, "Hey, are you still at youth group?" And I'm like, "No, why?" And she's like, "There's something I need to ask you about, but I don't want anyone else to see it." And I was like, "Yes, bro, we are in." Like, this is. I was like, the ball is in my court. The ball like is a free throw, or however people put that. Um, yeah, all my biscuits were in the basket. Everything was lined up. It was perfect. And then she said, I have a crush on Michael and don't want you to tell anybody. And I want to know if he likes me back. And I was like, ooh, this was like to my, it was like eighth grade at the time. Yeah, eighth grade, because it was after I broke up with Sophia. I was like, oh my gosh, bro. Holy cow. That emotionally crushed me. This was the first in an ongoing series of severe heartbreak that I would experience, but it doesn't really matter. Um, yeah, that was like that was like the easiest one to get over. I do date the blonde girl further down the line, but that is not time to get into that yet. So, this blonde girl, he remember I so Michael is aware. We're talking, and I'm like, yeah, I like her, and he's like, I don't. I would never date her because she's fat and ugly, and I'm like, wow, that's excessive to restate. And so I text him, and I'm like, hey, the blonde girl is into you, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, but you said you'd never go out with her, and he's like, well, but like he's like reconsidering some things in his mind up there. And I'm not doing this just to trash on him, mostly just because I think it's a fun story. And if you're going through this, you're not alone. So this guy, he actually ends up talking to her, like he gets her number, and they're talking and FaceTiming, and we go on a canoe trip later down the road, and this guy is on his phone FaceTiming her, but when the phone rings before he picks up, he's like, "Ah, oh, she talks so much and she's so annoying." So yeah, he's like in this talking stage with a girl that he wasn't into, that I told him I was into. Like he knew I liked her, and he only became interested once he found out that she liked him, and he didn't actually really care for her as a person. I think it was the idea, of like finding that love and attention, which can be a really easy thing for a lot of us to fall into, is, not necessarily looking for a person with qualities that we like, but looking for a person who just fills whatever emotional void or feeling we're searching for. Um, so yeah, that's the second time the bro code was broken in my life. I don't know if I really have time to get into another one, so we're just gonna kind of elaborate on that. Um, don't go shopping when you're hungry. Basically, like if you're craving something, that's not when you do your grocery shopping. Because if you really want ice cream, you're just gonna buy ice cream, and then later down in the week, all you have is ice cream, and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? If you get into a relationship and you're not paying attention to anything other than your emotional desires are being met and you're getting that connection, you're going to miss so many things. The person could be in reality a bad match for you. You could be a bad match for them. You guys just might not fit together at all, and it might turn into a whole huge mess. You can't just, go searching for like, you know, I'm talking in circles here with a lot of the same words, but you can't search for something and like, don't get like tunnel vision. That's what I'm looking for. Don't get tunnel vision. Because if you seek out a girl and you're only looking for emotional validation, you might find emotional validation in droves, but you could have nothing in common. You might not think she's pretty at all, which is a whole nother thing. Like the concept of being physically attracted to someone. But yeah, bro, don't do your homeboys dirty, because it's so poopy and awkward, and I let way more things slide than I should have. And don't, if it's someone that you don't like, then don't lead them on until you can get that emotional validation for yourself. Because you're not validating yourself, you're just feeding your own insecurities and clinging on to anything that's going to help you get out of that. So, if you're one of the dudes who, like if you go on OnlyFans because you want a connection, you're not finding a real connection, you're finding a substitute, like a drug, like a perversion of the real thing. You can't rush genuine human connection. It'll find you, and whatever you find, that delayed gratification will make it so much better. Which is a whole nother thing I'd like to elaborate on, is Gen Z's ability and my ability to experience delayed gratification. It's so easy in this day and age to find dopamine and trigger those reward paths. And it's easy to, you don't want to work for anything because you don't have to. But it's so much more rewarding when you do work for something and you do delay those rewards. It's like, you can't grow a garden in 2 days, but after a month, that garden will be so much more beautiful than if you just pumped it full of GMOs or something like that. GMOs might make it look ugly. I don't use GMOs in my garden. But I'm starting to yap. I'm gonna do something important maybe, or hop back on Minecraft in 20 minutes. Stay blessed, guys. Have a good day.